the spirit of community, we acknowledge that this event is taking place on the ancestral and present homeland of the Northern Pomo. We recognize, honor, and respect these nations as the traditional stewards of the lands and water on which the Ukiah campus is now present. As a community, we acknowledge this legacy. We recognize that Mendocino College has benefited and continues to benefit from the use of this land. Consistent with our values, we will work to strengthen our relationship with Native peoples. By offering this land acknowledgement, we recognize, support, and advocate for their sovereignty, and will work to hold Mendocino College more accountable to the educational needs of Indigenous people. Okay, so I want to thank our panelists. Hillary is going to go first, and I'm going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves and before they give their presentations. So we have 3 separate presentations, and then there will be time for questions.
Sure. Yep. I'll go first. I know Michael wanted to have a lot of discussion, robust discussion at the end, so I'll try not to speak too fast. But my name is Hillary Rennick, and I am a 1997 graduate of Mendocino College.
Woo! Yeah.
And so, I know one of my mentors is actually on the Zoom, Vicki Patterson, and she, today, one of my themes is valuing. So values, what do we value? And so Vicki, anthropologist, if you don't know her, is one of the people that, as a student here, valued Pomo culture. And she got her PhD studying some folks in my family. And so just a little bit about me. Am I sitting right there? Okay, sorry to interrupt. Okay. And so I'm Pomo and Paiute, and so Mendocino College, and then I went on to American University. I have a master's from George Washington University. Then I went to law school at the University of Oregon, and then after living in Washington State for a while, I went on to the University of Arkansas and got an LLM in food and ag law, and so went on to look at the connections, right? So everything is connected. I know that's like a very Northern California thing, but really, truly, everything is connected. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about traditional ecological knowledge. I know like it's one of the buzzwords, hashtag TK, right? IK, Indigenous knowledge. And so like I'm not going to define it. And so the reason I'm not going to do that is because of resource extraction, right? The history of extracting resources from Indigenous people, from Native people, and so including us. And in California, so California had the highest. I'll go to the next slide. But California had the highest. I don't know the educational backgrounds. I don't know how much to start with the background. So I apologize if I'm telling you guys something you already know, and also if I'm just what level. So go ahead and jump in. If you're like, what the heck are you talking about? Just tell me, because this needs to be a discussion. Otherwise, it does not work at all. Okay? Agreement? Agreement. Okay. So the background here is this is one of the papal bulls. And so in talking about values, so whose values? So we're all looking at everything in the world through the lens, right? So our lens, just like if the people through the door, right? And so it's up to us. So we all start out at a certain area, and those of you that are professors, you know this, right? So you get your students, and they're made up of, everything from their home life, from their education, from their culture, from everything that's values, right? And so the more experience we get, our world doesn't necessarily, right? As we know, out in the world, it could expand or it could get smaller. A lot of folks, as we know, we get, I guess, comfortable, right? When we know everything. I don't want to say that in a pejorative way, but like when we were like, okay, I know what this is, right? I'm comfortable with this is. Maybe it's water, maybe it's juice, I don't know, maybe it's something. It could be hot coffee. But so in looking at like the first contacts on this continent, one of the main values was terra nullius, and it comes from, this is from, the Pope, and it was like that nothing's here, right? And so we talk about values, first you have to devalue people in order to conquer, right? You have to use your mind to figure out, to justify your actions. And so those of you that enjoy history or anthropology or cultural anthropology or Native American history will know that in the news in the last couple of years that there was a lot of discussion on the requiremento. This is like the whole world, right? Anybody that was not in alignment or different, right? Just different, right? We're talking about, I was talking about the diversity of these beautiful tomatoes here and how beautiful they are, right? And what they're gonna do to nourish our body and mind and soul. But when you're different, what does that mean? Let's see, the next one. So, and then also in trying to like give you a little bit of a roadmap where I'm going, some folks will say, okay, well, are you Native American? Yes. Are you Pomo? Yes. Are you Indian? Yes. How could you be all of it? Or all of it. It depends, right? I go back really quick. Somewhere, where is this? Where am I pointing?
You might need to click back into it.
Can we unmute Rebecca? Accidentally mute you.
Anyway, so I can't go back. We can't go back. Life is in front of us. We can't go back, right? It's all connected.
Just go back.
Oh, okay, we went back. Okay, so in the Declaration of Independence, we talk about Indians, right? In the United States Constitution, we talk about Indian tribes, right? So what do? In my work practice? I practice Indian law, excluding Indians. Indians on tax and Constitution, federal Indian law. So it depends. Am I Pomo? Yes, I am Pomo. I'm also Indian. I'm what are we talking about, right? California Indian. So depends. So what was happening at contact, right? So of course there was no boundaries, right? Cultural boundaries do not follow political boundaries. Political boundaries of what was the state now of California, right? So everything, as we know, right? Code word or connected. Everybody's connected. It's a dynamic, incredibly moving landscape, right? The waters, the trees, the trade networks are abnoti shells are found in archaeological sites in Mandan, North Dakota, right? Of course, the farther you go this way, they get smaller. Down in Apache country, the wampum shells over here, they're found in archaeological sites all over. The interstate highway systems, old Indian trails, right? So dynamic moving landscape, people were never static. Nothing's ever static. So the whole system, the oceans oscillate, right? The oxygen, everything, the chemistry, the chemicals. The food sources, right? The gift of these tomatoes. They didn't originate with me. They came through, right? So this is like one of the TA projects that I work with. So this is, and I'm starting, this is the East Coast, and for the most part in the curriculum, because I'm also part of the California public school system, that you do kindergarten, Indians, right? Pilgrims, Indians. 4th grade, the terror, right, of 4th grade. Social studies of Indians, right? You hit them again, and then you kind of don't hear about them again until like Thanksgiving. So like with the Wampanoags are here, and working with the Aquinnah and the Mashpee Wampanoags who are still here, working with their giant Moshe, and capturing their stories, helping them, and capturing, that's a very resource extractive language, and I apologize for that. But like, really, and so Moshe, he helped shape their geography, their sacred geography, right? The Cape Cod, right? And then with climate change, Cape Cod, there's no hardly any cod in Cape Cod, right? So like the whole colonization of naming place names. Of course, they didn't call it Cape Cod. They called it their own names, and they're going through a system of renaming places, and also of renaming submerged landscapes, because this near-shore environment, the last ice age, of course, was dry land. So then going to our intertribal, closer to home, right? Our intertribal trade networks, the moving nutrients across the landscape. And so when I worked up with the Yakimas, you know, on their cradle boards, they had mussel shells that would hang down, and they would say, okay, the girls have this and the boys have that kind. And so in talking with elders, they would say, oh yeah, because we would go to the coast. When we'd have the babies, we'd go to the coast because the babies would need the iodine for their brain development. And there was certain trace minerals that we would need. And then if somebody had this certain kind of ailment, then we would go up to Vancouver Island and get those other kinds of seaweeds, those other kinds of kelps. And at the same time, then they would get these dentalia shells, right? And then, of course, the other people, you know, like us down here, we use the dentalia shells and the abalone and our for currency. And so just showing that, again, everything is connected, and you can see it in the archaeological record. So also when the Klamath came down and stole our beautiful California Indian women and traded them up at the Solilo area, when the Corps of Engineers built the Dells Dam, they found these giant acorn granaries. And so when you go and you talk to Warm Springs Indians, and they'll say, oh, we don't really process acorns. And then they found all these giant acorn granaries. Well, how did they get there, right? And then you go talk to some people, oh yeah, well, we used to buy some of our women from the Klamath. And you go talk to the Klamath, and they said, yeah, we used to do raids down in California, because those were the most utilitarian women that knew how to make acorns and use all the berries and everything, right? So they were like the high status people. And so, just showing like the different connections across the landscape through time, and how these still, in different ways, still exist. All the way through, I mean, this map cuts off at the political boundary of what is Canada, but it still goes into Canada, and it goes up into Alaska. More trade networks, all the way down into Mexico. And of course, the importance of connections to place, the reciprocity, right? So back to 4th grade. I don't know, I guess I got my own trauma in the fourth grade, right? And so being usually the only Indian in my 4th grade class, it's like something with Indians, you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, I had to answer all the questions. So, but you know, just thinking of the, when the teacher would say, you know, the Indians are superstitious, right? So Squanto would put the fish into the ground, and then, because he was superstitious, for the 3 sisters, for the corns, beans, and rice, or not rice, beans and rice, sorry, squash. And thinking, why was that, right? It wasn't superstition. He was putting nutrients into the soil. Because what happens when you don't put nutrients back into your soil, right? It's the soil health. Because when you love your land and you know that you have to, everything that you do is on behalf of your ancestors that came before you, and they're watching you all the time, and it's on behalf of everyone that comes after you, you have to love that soil, right? You have to love that land. And so It's the reciprocity of the health and wellness of the people depends on you, every single thing that you do. The respect of the natural world. So like, this is a photo of the Swinomish first salmon ceremony. So the first salmon that comes up the river, because salmon has the salmon has an old, just like our stories here, like an old agreement with us, covenant with the old people, and said, I will give you myself, I will give you our body, and I will nourish your people, but you also have to take care of the rivers, you have to take care of the ocean, and you have to take care of everything else. And otherwise I'm not going to come back. So the Swinomish take the first salmon and they return it back to the river because they love that salmon, because their salmon depends on it so much that the first, next viable catch, they only give to the most precious, the vulnerable, their elders, their children, and the sick. So much, And so the irony in that is, where do the persistent organic pollutants reside? It's in that fatty tissue, which is the best parts, right? It's in the cheeks, it's in the belly. And then the other picture is the Apache come to age ceremony, where they take the pollen, right? The pollinators. How important are the pollinators? So important, right? But again, Indians are just superstitious, right? So, but, yeah, go ahead.
Can we cut off those lights?
Oh. If you will it. No, I'm just kidding. Every other light.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
You just had to imagine. I'm just kidding, everything I said. So then here's just like some of the holdings and some cases that are still good law and that I use, but also just, active agency of tribal people in the landscape, loving the landscape, part of the landscape. These are Ojibwe people that are ricing, right? This is the wild rice. And then showing organized cultures, right? So sometimes folks will say, well, you guys are just kind of out there, right? Indian people are just kind of like nomads and out there. Like, no, like, when you look at the archaeological record, it's amazing. Like, with our trade networks, city is all over. If you've ever been to St. Louis, you can go over to Cahokia. It's beautiful. There's mound cities all over the place. Just phenomenal. And then I've been to, even in Riverside, down in Riverside, in a park, there is a beautiful rock alignment that is still aligned to the stars. So what happened? You're like, where's this? I want to know what the knowledge is. Tell me the knowledge. That's why I came here. I can't tell you. I'm not going to tell you the secret. Because, just with like the horrible history of California, and then especially this region, 97% of the people are just missing from the landscape. And then some people say, well, it's smallpox, so that. Like, no, like, intentionally. Like, if you look at the brutal history, I'm not going to go over it today, but of course, brutal, intentional. Genocide's very intentional. But, so some people and some families, retained, it's like your house, everyone's house is on fire. People took what they could, right? Some people took a lot. My Paiute grandmother was born in President Ward of the United States government. I work for the United States government. That there's the irony in that, right? But, and I was lucky to still have that language. She made sure, even though she was whipped. But what happened when she was whipped, in boarding school, I have a picture of her just like this, is that her twin sister, who ended up dying in boarding school, acquiesced and did whatever they would do to not speak the language. my grandma was angry and said, I'm gonna remember every single thing. Because in our language, it has feeling. And those of you that speak other languages, like sometimes English is very flat, but like in our native language, it has feeling. When you talk about that mountain, that place, and it has to do with you and all your people are buried there, it has feeling. It's so much deeper. And so the breadth and scope, and I've been to places when I was little with my grandma that aren't even on maps of like where we hid when the army was chasing us. And it's just so much deeper. And like, so like to go through the whole school system and everything was wrong, right? Everything's wrong. And then finally after law school, and they're like, oh yeah, that is right. And I'm like, I know it's right. So now we're in the age officially since like 76 in the age of self-determination. And like, so dabble a little bit in like the international arena. So ILO Convention 169 is important because that's where you bring in all the other indigenous people. I know I started with, are you indigenous or Pomo or whatever. So there's strength in numbers. And so ILO 169 is where we bring in everyone else. And so like this is an example where this is a story from the Sami people of northern Norway, Finland, Sweden, and Russia. And it's their stars. And just like we have star stories and the Milky Way, and they have star stories. So I was just there 2 weeks ago and shared the story, and I was like, can I take a picture? It's you know, you could either travel the world and see connections, or you could travel the world and see differences. It's up to you, you know. But to see the brothers on the skis as he's chasing the reindeer, right? I mean, like, it's to hear these stories. It's just, you know, you'd be sitting with any grandma or grandpa, right, and hearing, or great uncle hearing these same stories, and being on the other side of the world, and to realize that people, wherever they're at, they still love their land and they still have the stories. The difference there is, and it made me sad, is that going through the river canyons, of course beautiful, some of them remind me of like going around Hopland and stuff, but is that they still have the names of their places, and it made sense. And they'd say, oh, this is that root word, and it means that, right? And then ours is like Hopland because the hops are there, which it makes sense through time, right? So things do change through time. And then to go, you can't really see it right here, but I was at a fish weir, and then on this rock, this is like still in Norway, and on the other side is Finland, so that's Finland, this is Norway. There's a man here, and he's at a fish weir, and then down here, there's Sami people at a fish weir. So the irony, and just, I thought it was so cool just to stand there through time, because we could do that here too, but sometimes you learn more about yourself to leave and go see other people, and to like compare and contrast. And then also just the fact that these people, they don't know me and I don't look like them, because phenotypically they look like white people, but they're very indigenous, right? So like think about my own lens, my own teachings, right? Of like what that means. What does it mean to be indigenous? And how they welcomed me and shared their stories with me. People, places, connections. And then I know that other folks, let's see. I think my timer's on. I feel like I'm talking a long time now. Oh my gosh, did I not turn my timer on? Have I spoken 20 minutes? No? Oh shoot, I'm sorry guys. I was talking about the water system and okay. And then they're talking about fire, so I won't talk. I'm also on the fire team. And it's really awesome when National Guard closes everything, because I can go in and then just be around the sacred spaces. And then so my friend Cara Romero, she's waving, probably seen her stuff, and it's the depiction of being a California Indian, being invisible, in gold, the gold rush, and then the oil. And so, okay, I'll let everyone else talk. And this is a Yurok and Karuk artist, and just shows how from the baskets to the landscape, just that connection there. And so, thank you guys.
Did ours go through time? Your email?
Yes, let me just transition to that if you guys want to introduce yourselves while I get that.
Okay. Yeah, sorry for being late. Everyone just go first.
Yeah, my name is Stoney Timmons, Robinson Rancheria tribal member, crew lead for the Tribal Eco Restoration Alliance. Grateful to be here.
Oh.
Hello, my name's Christina. I'm from the Navajo Nation. I'm newly employed at Terra as the program manager. And yeah, we're here to give a presentation about Terra's work.
Oh. Did you say what it stands for?
Yeah.
The Tribal Eco Restoration Alliance.
Is Terra just in the U.S. or is it international?
Terra is a nonprofit and it's located in Lake County. So it's not part of a larger multi-organizations, first of its kind. Right on. But yeah, so it's local. It's right down the 20, and we'll get more into it. But.
When was it founded?
2019.
Oh.
Yeah, based in Upper Lake. Yeah, in Lake County.
Depends what size.
Yeah, so our mission is to cultivate land stewardship, livelihood, and leadership skills that weave collaborative relationships between tribal members and the community for the benefit of all lands and beings. Build capacity for the native communities in Lake County to play a central role in land stewardship by offering trainings and employment. Yeah, we have 6 full-time field workers, that go help steward the land. And right now, we've been focusing a lot of our efforts in Robinson's ancestral lands up in Long Valley and Nice. Some of our trainings we've hosted is our TREX training, which is a fire training exchange, where people from across the country and other countries come and share their knowledge about, cultural burning and prescribed fire. We also have a 4-week stewardship fellowship training, which is 140 hours annual training. We offer vocational skills, ecological restoration, and fields management, as well as traditional knowledge.
Yeah, so with that training, we open it up since Terra is a intertribal organization. So it's open to all tribal members and non-tribal members. We try to keep priority with some of the cultural trainings towards tribal members as well, just to stick with the organization's main focus is training and employment with tribal members. So as Stoney mentioned, there's the NSF program, which establishes ecocultural literacy and naturalist skills. So everybody's outside learning how to build a fire, how to take care of the land that they're on. As you've heard, that Stoney's from Robinson, I'm from the Navajo Nation, and those are 2 very different places, but we try to honor whose land we're on and listen to them first, and then, you know, as the presenter mentioned before, share those cultural connections. So we focus on human scale stewardship, which is enhancing the natural biodiversity, increasing water quality and quantity, sequester carbon through planting trees, you know, helping the soil become healthy again, strengthen culture and reciprocal relationship with the land, and there's Stony. Yeah, and then so this is a project that was in Lake County?
Yeah, this was on the lake shores of Robinson's lakefront property. We were doing some water monitoring and just seeing if we could find any hitch, which is a native minnow from our lake, which is endangered, by the way, but that's what we're doing right here.
Guys weaving through the tules. And then another part of the work is riparian restoration with basket tree plants. And our expert Corinne right here sometimes comes out and helps us with this, teaches us about what the basket tree plants need and what they don't need. If sometimes things need to be cut, they need to be cut or burned. So we'll.
We want to continue.
Okay.
Like I mentioned with the hitch and endangered minnow, the picture in the middle was, it's hard to see, but we weaved like a wall using the willow. As you can see, the bank right there is eroding, and after we got some heavy rains, we went back and monitored. That wall was doing really good. The willow had sprouted and started growing fresh shoots. Yeah, how the soil and then also the hitch seemed to love it, because when they started their spawn, they were just hanging out right there. So it was neat to see.
Tara also offers vocational skills, which includes chainsaw maintenance, learning how to operate machinery. Do you want to speak on that?
Yeah, so the bottom picture, like Christina said, is the basic chainsaw maintenance. So when you're out in the field, you'll know how to sharpen and maintain your chainsaw. The picture in the middle is he's doing a size up on the tree. So in order to fell a tree properly, you know, you need to be able to read the leans and binds of the tree to get it down safely. And on the right, that's what happens when you combine that and you get the tree down safely. Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, we have a 6-person full-time field crew with the office staff and 3 on-call crew members. We have contracts on public land, private, and tribal lands. One of our private projects was out in, which I think we have a slide in here, which was out in Bow Valley, I think Anderson Valley, yeah, I think. But where we removed a bunch of conifers to restore it back to an oak savanna, oak woodland type ecosystem. Public, yeah, we work on with the Forest Service and, you know, try to keep it just on tribal land. So Robinson, Big Valley, Middletown, we worked on all the lands around the lake. Yeah, just building that connection and partnerships with all the tribes. Yeah, this is the Anderson Valley project I was talking about. As you see the picture on the left, there's so many, I think it was Douglas fir, but they were just encroaching on the black oaks over there, and it's tough to see, you know, because the oaks provide for everything. And these conifers, they grow really fast, and once they start piercing the canopy of the oak tree, that oak tree is done for, and yeah, it's not a good sight to see. So we went into this project, did some scouting, you know, looked for wildlife, did some plant identification, and you know, started getting to work. The picture on the middle is what it looks like now. And then the picture on the last picture, we just used a slash to weave it in to catch eroding soil. Like Christina mentioned, we want to sequester the carbon, so keeping that carbon in the soil, and instead of like when all these catastrophic wildfires happen, you know, all that carbon's released up into the air. We don't want that, so we just find different ways to use the slash, to keep that carbon in the ground. In this picture, this was the start of us working on Robinson's ancestral lands. We had leadership from Robinson and the United States Forest Service show up and do a site visit. Where we just wanted to make sure we had the same goals and objectives, and you know, made sure our people had a voice for how our ancestral lands got stewarded. So. Sure. Post-fire restoration. This is a picture of us making an oak protector, I like to call them. You know, due to our people not being able to hunt and wildlife getting comfortable with the deers and stuff, they like to sit around and browse on the oak trees, so they never get a chance to grow. So that's us putting up a protector to help them get past the browsing height. We found some like dog bane on Robinson's lands after the Pomo fire had taken off. We went to go do some monitoring, see if there was any hot spots or any fire activity going on. And underneath all the Himalayan blackberry, you know, we had some basketry material pop up and show itself. So we ended up, there was some willow nearby, so we ended up using the willow as a cage to keep the deer off from eating, you know, our plant. So then we can come back later, get the seeds and sow some more seeds for, you know, for basket makers.
And then part of post-rehab after a fire includes native seed collection. So Di has been collecting seeds throughout the year of, you know, very important native species. And then when it comes time after the fire, you know, we'll sprinkle the seeds back, hoping that it'll come back and the non-native species, you know, will have burned off. Another project that was done by Tara is a lakeshore restoration, and that was in partnership with Lake County Water Resource Department and the Big Valley EPA Department, which includes removal of the Latin name inserted there, or the floating primrose. So this is a picture of before at the bottom here, and all that is primrose, right?
Yep.
That's all primrose, that green, which floats on top of the water and just, you know, tangles up the other aquatic species, chokes out the water, doesn't allow for a good sunlight, which is not good for the river. And then, we had, you know, I think it's just the process of that is just, you know, getting a big hook, grappling it, and just ripping it out.
Yeah, one other thing that we use is where there wasn't water present, you could weed eat, and we put a solarization tarp over the top of it. And that killed a lot of it, but man, this plant's tough to deal with because little chunks can just sprout back, and you know, it just keeps coming back. So we would clear an area and then replant with tule, because when it tries to, it just can't grow through the tooling. So that's why we're replanting it along with other plants like smartweed.
And some may already know that tule is a very important species for water quality. It filters the water. It provides great habitat for fish, birds, and yeah, it's just a natural plant that has been taken over by some of these invasive species.
Yeah, then we jump into controlled burning and prescribed fire, cultural burning.
So this is another program that Terra operates. They have trainings available, and I don't really know which one's this one.
Yeah, so, yeah, I don't know where the picture on the left is, but the picture on the right, that's my brother Eric Timmons, me, him, and Martin Duncan, who's in the first picture. That's when we got to go up and burn with the Yurok and burn for their hazel. We burnt over 100 acres while we were up there, which is pretty neat. But it was a challenge because they got tough terrain.
So cultural burning has been a part of California history pre-settler times. Per year, there'd be around 4 to 6 million acres burned, and most of it was done by Native Californians. And the main mission of Terra, I feel, started from wildfires and redeveloping the wildfire program of what's been happening for so long. So that's some of the work.
And 4 to 6 million acres a year. Our biggest wildfire is like 2 million acres, and they think that was a lot. Our people were burning this on a yearly basis. It's a lot.
And cultural fires are much different than regular wildfires that we've been seeing nowadays. It's low intensity, it's controlled, versus the high intensity fires that just run through a landscape.
Is this only in California, the 4 to 6 million acres?
Yes. Yeah, I can't speak about the other states. And then with cultural burning, there's a lot of benefits to basketry materials. Some, trees like elderberry produce a lot of little shoots around the bottoms of them, and in order to maintain like a healthy plant, it's good to burn some of that away, and so that new growth can come in and make the tree stronger. Some people have their own practices to where it could make it straighter or more resilient, change color. There's also the caretaking of food sources by cleansing the land and reducing pathogens. You can see a diseased tree right here, and is that burnt acorns?
Yeah, they look like there's holes in them. Well, that's from the acorn weevil that likes to, eat the acorns and makes it hard to use as a resource when those are present. So this burn was done at Robinson Rancheria's dance grounds to reduce the habitat of the acorn weevil, so we could have a better acorn crop the next year.
Yeah. So cultural burning also germinates native seeds. Do you have an example?
Like manzanita loves fire. It sprouts up after fire. You get into the stratification and scarification of different species. Yeah.
So another benefit is also cultural burning, which includes opening up a space, like Stoney mentioned earlier, getting rid of some of the non-native trees that choke out the oaks, and yeah, provides some habitat for example, acorn woodpeckers need, homes. They like some of the trees that have been burned because it's easier to, make homes and then plant some new acorns.
Yeah, the fire is used to get rid of the invasive species. Like those conifers they've seen on the left, those are young trees, so when you have fire come through, they're not used to that, so that the fire kills them pretty quickly. And with the oak tree, that's our people have been burning since time immemorial, so these things are adapted because of that.
And then fire is also used to reduce hazardous fuel loads. If an area hasn't been burned for a very long time, there's inches of debris that have been built up, and that's not good for native species who are trying to, grow and thrive.
Yeah. Cultural burnings, from the humans down to the animals and everything in between. But prescribed fire is just mostly for the, like Christine was talking about, the name of fuels reduction, just to get rid of fuels. When you do cultural burns, that's just a byproduct. It's getting rid of the fuel load.
Maintenance. And then this goes into the tricks.
Yeah, so we've this will be our second year hosting the Treks. Like I said, it's a fire training exchange. The first year we've had over 100+ people come and get certified and trained up. People in Lake County and outside of the county came. We have one going on next week. Yeah, we just teach them how to operate the equipment, like a trash pump, our Type 6 engine. Talked about burn plans, the differences of soils, and it's just a really good training, especially after Lake County has been impacted by these wildfires, and just building the connections. We have people like the oil agencies, Forest Service, CAL FIRE come out and present, and also learn from our instructors, to help change the way these agencies operate.
And then this is a burn that was done in Clear Lake, and then the Thule regrowth, right?
Yeah, so this burn was in, I think, what is this thing? We had a burn over in Big Valley, and it was interesting to see because when we scouted this unit, it was Thule mixed with a bunch of invasive weeds, and after we came back and monitored, and we found like 2 sticks of dogbane, and after we came back and monitored and we're looking around, half of the unit turned into dogbane, the other half was just Thule, so it was really, really neat to see. And this is at Robinson's lakefront property right here.
Yeah. Feel free to follow our Facebook, Instagram, and then we have our contact information below. The website is tribalecorestoration.org. And are we doing questions later? Okay, questions later. Thank you.
I'm Michael, tribal member of the Coyote Valley Band of Pomo Indians. Thank you for allowing me to speak in front of you. And so proud to see these ones get up here and speak and talk about restoring their land. Because for me, that's what it's about. We have to figure out how to get our people connected. Once we get connected, we have to figure out how to restore it. And so what this documentary is going to share a little bit about is our struggle, our movement, which is now called Pomo Land Back. Maybe you heard of it. If you haven't, check it out on Instagram or our website or Facebook. But we even have a TikTok, I believe now. So if we would, we'll just start with that. This will bring back memories. I haven't seen this. And this, when you watch this video, there's people in here that, oh, it's you were there. Oh, so beautiful at the moment. We honored just beautiful people in here. And when you see them, us honoring them while we're dancing and being there, just honor them while we do it, while we watch this video. We're gonna have a quiz after too. Look at that first line right there. I feel like there was sound.
It's coming.
Sacred Mountains here. And over here on Casper, we have large cultural sites. They want to go and cut trees down in April, I believe. Right? So, we need to protect our cultural sites.
When I look out there, I go, do I allow this to happen in Casper 500? No. Do we allow this to happen in Casper 500? We're witnesses. Once you get out here, you're going to see it if you haven't already.
The basis of this indigenous perspective is you'll never move forward. If all you're doing is taking, you're never going to get where you want to be. Right? You got to put back.
And now we've got to figure out how to protect what's left.
Come down. Come closer so you can hear the story.
Today we're here for Mother Earth. Today we're here for the plant nation and the trees. Today we're here to cry out and to sing our songs and to pray.
Favorite elder on earth right here, my Aunt Susie. 97 years. Her mother, her grandfather, her grandmother, they know what it was like before this. Too many of us don't know anymore. It's called disconnection. But they know it. It's important for everybody to understand their legacy. And for the first time, we're documenting to tell the world, and thank you dancers and singers. These people have come from far away to share the connection to this earth with you.
Our reservation from Round Valley. And there's anybody else? What other reses are here? Guanarina's in the house. Puddles. Anyone else? Drayton. Sherwood.
Ready, Rancheria.
For the rest of us in California, Jackson Demonstration Force is really important, right? It's really important for us because how they mess up here is how they mess up everywhere. The policies that are set in place, in part come from here, and they're not good. And this is the force that they use to say that we can do this up in your territory. We already did the vetting, we already did the studies, like, this works. But I'll say from my experience, it doesn't matter if it's a Forest Service, CAL FIRE, NGO, or a private group. If tribes aren't involved in the decision making, it never ends up good. Got good land, hound, man. This is good land. It's good territory. Let's make it a demonstration of traditional management when you do it holistically on a watershed level like we used to.
All we're asking for is a moratorium on logging in the Jackson Demonstration State Forest until the tribes can sit with the agencies to determine what is right. I try to figure out a way to tell that story in a happy way, but I get so emotional all the time. And I think it's because of the women that we honor and such a hard life here. Such a hard life. The stories they tell me, I go, oh my God, they did that to you. You're still alive. Oh my God. Oh my God. And these are descendants that are on your board of supervisors, city councils. Oh my God. What lens they must look through now. It's a tough one for me to share, because those are tough stories, So I think I want to kind of stay focused on maybe facts a little bit. And this is the same question I ask a lot of people, our state representative, our senator, our assemblyman, our congressman, our board of supervisors. This is the common question I ask, and I think we might know it. What's the largest state forest in California? Does anybody know that? It's called the Jackson Demonstration State Forest, and it's only in Mendocino County. That is our forest. If you live in Mendocino County, that is your forest to protect, to restore, not to allow the state to extract, to log 200-year-old redwoods for profit, for revenue. They're extracting our resources. I'm not making it up. The reason I start off with this video is because I want you guys to understand the direct relationship I have and who taught me. My Aunt Susie, who's passed just this year, bless her soul, and my mother, who's still here. They taught me. And so for me, it's about how do I get more people connected with what's happening in their backyard. So when I was asked to speak here, I said, this must be the best place. This is where we educate people. The largest state forest, and none of us knew that it was in our backyard. It's 50,000 acres. If you add all the other state forests together, this is larger than all of them combined. So as we talk about restoring our land, we have to come through the Native American lands, or you'll continue to have legislation that allows you to log like this and call it select cutting. So when they talk about we're going to take this fire fuel and we're reducing it, and it's going to make us safer. You don't start with the 200-year-old trees. They just showed you. You start with the small trees. You clean it out so your big ones that know how to survive fires, that have been there for hundreds of years, that acclimated, can survive. Everybody knows that. But CAL FIRE wants you to believe that if they take that big old 200, 300 redwood out, it's easier math. I don't even have to cut these other ones. You know why? Because these ones are going to replace those big ones. And I said, what world do you live in? These ones are 20 to 30 to 40 years old. You're telling me you're going to take that 200 redwood out legally because it's breaking out the fuel, taking out that fuel load. It's going to make us safer. And these little ones that can't stand the fire are the ones you're going to leave. But in 200 years, these trees will quadruple that one tree. In 200 years, these trees will also be 200 years old. What world do we live in? Where is it okay for us to allow anyone to extract our resources? Anywhere. Anywhere. That's not mine. That's not what I do. I was raised by a warrior, Priscilla Hunter. She's a warrior. That woman's been terminated from the Cayuga Valley Dam to be reinstated as an Indian, to later on go through whatever she has to go through to continue to battle these people in this area, to fight for what you have. For what you have. And the only fight you have to do is be present. It's not that hard. We host events, we get them going. I'm going to do it again. And I hope we get some more Native Americans out there, because the people need to know that we are the faces here. The state needs to know this. You can't just extract our redwoods anymore. You got to stop. I'll give you an example of one study that was done. They call it an alder tree study. They said, we're going to put an alder tree study together to save certain alder trees. I could agree on that. I said, let's start with these 2 THPs that you already have on the chopping block. Timber harvest plans. There's no alder trees left. They cut them all. The week before they were telling us. They cut them. Douglas first, 200, 300 years old. There's no more alder trees left in the THPs that they finished. So when you see the blue lines around those trees, those big trees, that's what they want to convince you that it's okay to log those. You've seen with the video, I call that kindling. Because they take these big redwoods out and they pull them out and they leave the branches or they cut them all off and all that's out there and they say, yeah, but that's going to decompose and feed the earth. And I'm saying, that tree ain't going to decompose for a long time. It's going to dry up and become a fire hazard before it decomposes because you're doing it wrong. And that's what we're faced with today. So for me, I would say, teach your students, learn, talk to your representatives. What better movement is there than for Mother Earth? If you want to get youth together, especially Native youth together, give them a movement. And that's what I'm trying to provide. So maybe you guys would jump on board. I hope so. But I really want to thank you all for allowing me to speak today. This is so close to my heart. And I told myself I want to keep sharing it because I just love the people in the videos. I love them so much. And the cause is the greatest cause of Earth, which is defending our Mother Earth. But there's more questions for others, too, right? Oh man, everybody's tired, huh? I'm tired too.
I have a question.
Yeah, great.
I was just wondering, the studies around the water table and taking the larger trees and disturbing springs and just the water that is there that supports life in the forest.
Yeah, you know, CAL FIRE got caught, literally caught, it's in the newspapers, you could Google it, got caught not taking the advice from, they have these different agencies that, like Stoney was talking about, and one agency, the water agency, they're more like, hey, we need to protect our waters, it's pretty limited around here, and CAL FIRE's like, hey, we're just gonna take what you said and rewrite it, kind of, and they actually got caught last year. So they were going through a real big audit, but just recently, they just, JAG right now, JAG is a committee that's established by CAL FIRE for locals to be able to have a vote, but they never take any of their advice anyways. That committee's today, and to approve 2 more THPs, timber harvest plans. So to continue logging, it's kind of mind-blowing to me. Yeah.
What can we do to protest the approval of the THPs?
I think you would, there's a great website, and it's called Mendocino Trail Stewards, and there's also SaveJackson.org. And they have, they're constantly holding events. I haven't had the opportunity to, I've been trying to get my spirit back, but I haven't had the opportunity to redo this. We got 500 people to the Capitol. Wow, it was huge. It was huge. We got to double it, you know? And that takes a lot of work, energy, a lot of money, a lot of everything you can think of. But Pomo Land Back is a good website, and on Facebook it's a club, and we'll post everything we do on there. Thank you.
I have not like a fully formed question, but you know, I was struck by Hillary talking about the way that indigenous knowledge has been dismissed as like superstition, and it seems also that in the case of the Jackson Forest, it's also kind of being just dismissed. And I wonder if any of you can comment on that, or if in Terra you have a more positive reception from the community and from like fire agencies.
I can speak on personal experience with that. I'm new to the organization, so I don't want to speak for them fully, but yeah, indigenous knowledge, or TK, or just the way of living has been dismissed by, you know, Western society. And the way I see Terra, and the way the reason why I joined Terra was because I felt that Terra was a response to that. It was a way to, you know, combat the long history of the government not allowing us to practice, you know, what we know and how we feel about the land. So, yeah, that's just how I feel like it's allowing, you know, people to get together, do trainings, and, you know, respond how they feel.
I think it's still dismissed. So like I oscillate back and forth. So like as a tribal person myself, and then but also in different roles that I serve in. I'm on the DOI Bear team, which is like a specialized team under Interior that goes in during large wildfire events. So I go all over the country, like usually in a very contentious situation where the tribes don't want to talk to the land management agency at all. Such as like the Seminole tribe of Florida. Super interesting, where like lots of invasives, and where the state of Florida used to actually airdrop Melaleuca, another species, to dry up the Everglades. If you know the history of the Seminole tribe, they hid out in the Everglades because, you know, the alligators and everything. It's like a really awesome kind of history of resistance. And so their homeland and the reservation is full of so many invasives, but it's also very precious to them because the reservation is somewhat small, and their homeland. You know, when you've been chased literally by the United States Army to a very small place, and like to the end of the country, like Florida, and then finding cultural trees. And so, and then documenting them, right? So it's like, hey, there's cultural trees, I should document them under, you know, the different historic preservation, you know, and then the tribe's saying like, some of them we know that's there, but please don't record them. So then, but when I go in on the berry team, I'm on the fire arc. And so, and then, you know, then with like the different lenses, so, and then some of the other archaeologists will say, those aren't really cultural trees, that they're just like some weird oddities, right? And then you could obviously, you know they're a cultural tree because they're right by a spring. So if you were like, you know, on an Indian trail, which may be a road now, and we have them around here too, like you would just know, like, okay, that is an obvious place to rest. So there's a spring there, a cultural tree, which is the marker, right? Or a boundary marker between a different tribelet or a different area, and then maybe even a food source. So like if you were going to camp, you know, there would be like a place, a refuge for your people to camp. Like if we were from here going to Lake County or something like that, like on the way to over Cow Mountain, there would be like a place, a cultural tree where the trail was. And so that gets dismissed sometimes. Sometimes there's some other archaeologists that I worked with, like down in by Morongo, where like they climbed up to the top and they were like, oh my gosh, we just found like basically an ancient interstate highway. Like this is the trade routes, you know. And it's like, well, we only got 3 more days on this fire, you know. And it's like, well, do we document it or what? And it's like the tribe said, let's cover it up. Okay, we're gonna let it be, just because out of respect for whoever, we're just gonna write on our notes that nobody should be up here. It's gonna be a closed area. You know what I mean? Just like out of respect for whatever. And then when we write our plans, we're writing them so that the reseeding and stuff, the stuff that he was kind of talking about, like is down farther. So we're directing the people down to go and collect the pine nuts and everything, like to another place, and we're leaving, which I would argue at this time in the current era, 2023, because there's only remnant places left, that the sacred landscape be left alone for whoever, you know what I mean? So dismissed. Still, yes, it's not just in the past. Super long answer, sorry.
Other questions on Zoom? Yes.
I have one for Christian and Stony, right?
Talk
Yeah.
loudly.
Okay.
So Zoom people could hear you if you
Talk
just
louder?
talk very loud. Yeah.
Okay, so my question is regarding restoring oak forest. Just out of curiosity, how did invasive trees like the black conifers get here with the oaks?
I don't know, but I know that since the agencies are like giving conifer trees around to plant, especially after fires. For one, they grow a lot quicker. They drink up a ton of water, but they just hand them out.
They're also native. Just because something's native doesn't mean it isn't invasive. It's a native invasive plant. Because before it grows fast, like, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, Sony.
Okay.
But it grows fast. So, like, it can out-compete everything. And then it also likes to grow with buddies, so it pulls in more trees. And then because it grows fast, it sucks up all the water in the area, and then it sucks up all the light in the area. And they grow much faster than you think. Like, you can have a 200-year-old tree, redwood tree, and a 60, 70-year-old fir tree look the same. A lot of people are mistaken that an old growth fir is not an old growth fir. You can tell how long it's been since they clear cut an area. Like, you can go over to Lake County and be like, oh, it's been 40 years, oh, it's been 70 years, by how big the trees are. They just were managed much better than they are now.
Okay. Thank you.
Our local expert. I think the chat has something.
Yeah.
25 messages.
Janet,
Oh,
I
I didn't. Okay, let's see here. Not see that many messages. Let's see here. Well, it says here from Christopher, the fir will overtop the oaks and shade them out, eventually killing them. Let's see, what else do I have? A lot of those are from Minerva and I. We've been talking back and forth. Douglas fir are native, but they have invaded oak woodlands in the absence of indigenous fire.
Yeah, and I can chime in on that if you guys want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those Douglas fir are native. We have local Douglas fir forests, and essentially they belong in those areas. But where we've removed that indigenous fire, they have expanded into the oak woodlands, and because they grow taller and ultimately are more shade tolerant, they can regenerate in their own shade. They end up replacing the oak woodland, growing over the top of them, shading them out, and then you lose the value of the oak woodlands. So the value for indigenous people and for native wildlife both, and they become a major wildfire fuel threat. So what we often want to do is go into those woodlands like Tara is doing and thin out those understory Douglas fir. And if you let it go too long, eventually the oaks die, and there's no means to restore it other than going in and cutting down the big firs and replanting oaks and waiting 100 years. So what they're doing is really important for maintaining those woodlands.
And just so you know, you can pull up to a 5-year-old fir tree out of the ground like a carrot. So just the next time you go on a hike, do that.
And we've added that.
Oh, no, that's
We've also added, Minerva added some links. If you do go back and look at the recording, the links of the folks who've been speaking today and how to get a hold of them and access their websites. So that's also in the chat.
So, I'm sorry, I wasn't here for your portion, but the little bit that I heard from going in after the fires, so you not reporting on those certain things when the tribes ask you not to, does that take away any type of protections for those areas? Or is that based on where they're located?
So like if I go in as a fire, so I'm not suppression, so like there's different roles in a fire. So like there's the firefighter one and firefighter, like there's a whole team of people. So I go in with through a cultural lens.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I don't know, here's a good example. So one of the northern tribes in Montana, they have scaffold burials, and so they only wanted certain people that had certain skills and cultural competency. Aside from all the fire calls to get in, and so their medicine men sat with me before to go, and they said, this is what you want. And so my charge from the government was to write a report, right, and also to consult with the tribe. And but also in my training, there's other certain things I look for. If I see any danger to life or property, like there's human burials that are going to erode onto a road, I will definitely have a plan to do something and get the proper, and I'm sorry, this is actual really what happens. And so if there's an emergency like that, we'll handle it. But it's very delicate when you're dealing with emotions, humans, ancestors that are and then ancestors that are farther, like it's all heart stuff, right? And so and then fire, so erosion, the next rains, depending on where you're at, are there monsoons? Are they, where's the road? Are there houses below? Like, so there's a lot of other stuff going on. So in that case, work with the tribe and use judgment. And so does it diminish the report? No, I would say no. You know, but it all depends. I mean, that's a super like blurry answer. It depends, but it does. You know, ethically, would I do anything that would? No, I wouldn't. But that's when you use your judgment to protect the community and to those standards.
I have a chat question from Jane Appleby. She asks, I don't understand why CAL FIRE is clear cutting. Who signed off on this and why are they so resistant to co-management with the tribes? Who is benefiting from the timber sale?
Who was benefiting from the timber sale? So I do budgets and things like that, and I really like them for some reason. So I tore theirs apart, and what it is more just admin staff in Sacramento. So it's just staff. And so they do the checks and balances, and they do the check marks and say, oh, this is they did it correctly, but they never come out here. And I've met them all, and it's like a huge team. And I'm like, you guys just do paperwork? So it goes to fund them. So you're saying you guys didn't see what was happening. Now we're showing you the videos and pictures. What do we do about it? They're like, nah, we signed off on all that. So what do we do? I don't know. And now you want us to go against being paid? So we got the Secretary Crowfoot to fund the department for, I believe, 3 years. Maybe 2 years, 2 to 3 years, so it's not relying off the sales of the timber. But that 2 to 3 years is coming to an end, so they're starting to put the THPs up. And they also found out I'm not chairman anymore, so now they're really coming after me, dang guys, but I don't know. We'll have to get more people out there. You know, that's the answer and that's the solution, is we just got to get more people out there. Here's the real solution. So I don't know why I forgot about this. So the state is doing a 30 by 30. Is anybody familiar with the 30 by 30 plan? Put 30% of lands in protection, 30% of coastal waters into protection. So that's a big deal. I asked the secretary, I said, why don't we put the largest state forest with the most redwoods in our county into that protection? And he said, because we do very important testing. The video I showed you, where that clear cut is, that video, that's their last test, their major last test they did out there, Jackson demonstration that they're demonstrating. So that was what they did, and we're saying stop testing. Just stop testing, conserve it, and leave it alone at this point. If you're not going to put the time into restoring it, which means taking out the small timber, you know, if you're not going to put the time into restoring it, just leave it alone, because you're making it worse, and you're going to cause you're killing us, to be honest. There's a lot of fires happening, you know.
There's a lot of different 30 by 30s though too. There's a federal 30
California
by 30.
ones I'm talking about with Newsom.
I have a more abstract kind of theoretical question about traditional knowledge. I'm not even sure if I should ask the question, but since we're almost out of time, in your various opinions, do you feel like that's knowledge that should remain in the control of the tribes, or is it appropriate for an institution like ours to incorporate it into its curriculum?
Oh, it's environmental. You know what I say back when they say Pomo land back? We don't own this land. Nobody owns this land. You know, that's all fake. You know, we just belong to the land. So in my mind, if it's anything that has to do with environmental, everybody there, get everybody there. You know, pay attention, read, pay attention is what you really have to do, and get out there and stop people from doing it. But in my mind, I'm all like, all hands on deck. So if you're an environmentalist, all hands on deck. It's that time. That's me, though. You know?
Yeah, I think it's very, so I go based off what my family tells me. So if my family says it's okay to share this, I'll share it. And when I work with Tara, I ask, hey, is it okay to share this, or how do you all share information out of respect to those who have taught the culture to Tara or to its student participants, anybody. So I just try to maintain that, like, that respect, and also I think it's personally, I think it's good to share the overall picture of what you know, TK is all about, just so we can have that mutual respect. But when it comes to specifics, I tend to rely to my family and the people I work for.
I would argue that some of, oh, I'm sorry, did you want to say something?
No, I just
Okay. Like bigger picture, I would argue that some of it is taught because like from my grandmother, she used to say, you know, like, well, you know, we were always clean, we'd always take baths, and the settlers didn't. And so I would argue that is TEK. Like that is our stories. And we were taught that was superstitious, to wash our hands, and so to wash our food. And so that's taught now, and that's normalized. And so just the cleanliness and a lot of our medicines, right? You go to, like, the irony is, you know, we can't get a lot of our food without sometimes being harassed by honey fishing gathering, but then you could go to Whole Foods if you have your whole check, right? And so, so, and then, you know, just the appropriation of the cherry picking of our culture. And so, and who benefits? Not us. If you drive through our reservation, it's definitely not us, right? Who benefits from the Winnebagos, you know, like driving around, or the Jeep Cherokees, not those tribes. And so, you know, as a Native person myself, like, so much has been taken. I don't think any more should be taken, especially when it's always taken out of context. And so even with our stories that some of us do have, and I have a lot of stories, and I'm really thankful for that, because like when you go through the chronology and the timeline, you know, our history, our culture, our religion was illegal until the American Indian Religious Freedom Act in 1979. And so, and you know, Indian Health Service, you know, forcefully, without our consent, sterilized our women until 1979. So like these things were so recent. So then to say, okay, now we respect, oh, that's sorry, you know, get over that, and we respect you, and now share what you got left. Oh my gosh, you're still here? Like, give us the rest. And it's like, no, like you know, some of us have a lot, some of us have very little. And so like I know I was very fortunate that, you know, I do know some of my places from my grandparents and my great grandparents, and it's very precious to me. And those stories, and but also their, you know, the lives that they live are very tragic. You know, my grandmother that was from Hopland, she died because they didn't let Indians in the hospitals, because, you know, the time was like, you know, so she let out. They would let dogs in the hospitals as pets, but not Indians. And that was here, you know, until like very recently, almost the 80s, we couldn't even sit in Ukiah, and you know, in the bottom, we had to sit up in the balcony, you know, and so like many of our towns here in this area, Jim Crow towns, you know, when the Lumberville, you know, when the whistle, the siren goes off, the Indians were supposed to be out of town. So like, even though we don't want to talk about it, we're like, you know, clutch our pearls and it makes people uncomfortable, we do have to talk about it. And when you look at, you know, even like our historical records, and you know, if you look at the 1860 census from here, you're gonna see slavery in this county. So like, I mean, there's so much that needs to happen. So then to say, oh, well, now we want to teach your stuff, and it's like, acknowledge everything that happened here first, right? So, I mean, again, like 97% of our people are missing from here. Are we just going to ignore it? So, yeah. This one thing really quick, I have to say it, is like this year, 150 years from the Modoc Indian War, 200 years from Mission Sonoma. Today there's the Truth and Healing Council is at Mission Sonoma. I mean, this stuff isn't that long ago. Like, so, and a lot of people don't know.
Thank you all. very much.
I would say if you wanted to teach something, I would teach about Pomo. I went and did Native American study at Sonoma. I tell you some of the people about it, I'm like, man, they wanted to teach me about other outside the tribes, and I created a website called visitcaliforniatribes.com. Hopefully you can share that. Visitcaliforniatribes.com. And if you go there, you'll find every tribe in your district. And she wouldn't even let me share that. I don't understand.
Just a thank you from one of our Zoomers, from Jane Appleby, just wants to thank the panel for being here today.
Thank you all very much.